Before we start, the question that's burning on every audience member's brain is, which turtle are you?
Which turtle am I, or which turtle is my favorite?
Which turtle are you?
I'm thinking probably Michelangelo more than anyone else, but my favorite has always been Donatello.
Nice.
What about you? What do you got?
Oh, me? I am Caravaggio, the moody turtle who didn't make it into the movie because of how bad it was and just sits off to the
Wow.
side, questioning why the
Wow.
franchise happened and hoping that the 90s are over.
Are you not a turtle fan at all?
That's a funny. Let's get into that on today's episode.
Ladies and gentlemen, welcome to another fantastic and totally tubular episode of the Sanctum Sanctorum podcast where comics and Christ culture collide. I am one of your hosts, Chris.
And I was so bored, but I'm Joey. Welcome to the show.
He's just mad. You're just mad. You're mad. Now, let's clear something up before we get started with
Here
our
we go.
culture moment and stuff. Let's just clear up.
Yep.
This is not a movie that you grew up watching, correct? Yeah, I know. I knew as soon as it came
This
out of my
is
mouth, I
not
knew that's what you were going to
a
say.
movie.
This is not a movie, right?
Nope, never saw it. This was
the first time, right?
There's no nostalgia to this. There's no fond looking back. I never saw this on reruns. Even if I was allowed to watch TV back at this point, it was PBS. It was very much your hat. It was just Sesame Street, Wishbone, and maybe Carmen Sandiego.
Got it.
Ninja Turtles, absolutely not.
See, for a different reason, my mom didn't love that I watched the Ninja Turtles only because I had a lot of control issues and impulse control issues growing up. And so I would then become a Ninja Turtle and I would, drop kick and karate, the chair, the couch, the furniture, my sister, my dad,
Yeah.
whatever was.
Your mom is one of the nicest humans
present.
ever. Shouts out to Mama North.
She is.
But no, I have no connection to this property, this IP, never had a Ninja Turtle action figure, never had the backpack, never had the lunchbox. This was brand new for me.
So you didn't watch the cartoon either? Like even a little older?
I could see that being on occasionally, but we didn't have cable. So if I did see it, it was on like reruns at night at my grandparents' house.
Okay.
So no connection.
All right, and you never read the comic either. Like, man, you missed out. Ninja Turtles love was for real in the late '80s and '90s. That was a big.
I am a turtle. I'm a turtle newbie.
All right. Well, I just wanted to clear that up because I did warn you that watching this movie
changes you.
Well, it changes you, but watching it cold for the first time with no history of, the movie or the franchise at all, you're going to see it differently than somebody who has at least a bit of nostalgia because it's.
It's not nostalgic glasses, but it's definitely watching it through a sewer grate.
Wow.
Clever. We got a culture moment for you today. Chris, what are we talking about?
Well, I was, my culture moment today had the Ninja Turtles movie in mind when we did it. Now, if you've ever seen this movie before, you'll know that the Jim Henson Creature Shop created the Ninja Turtle suits that they're wearing. So it's not CGI, it's all practical effects, practical costumes, puppetry, and robotics, which I love. I think that that's part of the nostalgia charm of it.
Yes.
Now, in superhero movies we have today, including Ninja Turtle movies, but also in all the Marvel and DC movies, we hit a real sweet spot with CG and de-aging. And then it started going off the rails again, and things started looking, these nano suits where all they do is this, and the suit just appears. That looks ridiculous. The CG has just begun to look more fake again. So the question I want to pose to you is, are we too oversaturated with CGI? Should we be going back to practical effects, practical costumes? Which do you prefer? Because one was very heavy in, these fantasy type movies in the 80s and 90s. Not so much now. So which is better? Do you think there's too much of one and not the other? So thoughts, go.
It's sort of a sign of the times, right? Like, we have become a digital society, and so our movies have reflected the digital aspect. Which do I prefer? I prefer the practical effects 9 times out of 10.
Okay.
The classic example of this for me is not a superhero movie. It's actually the Jurassic Park franchise. I can watch all of them. I enjoy them. They're fun. But when you watch basically the Chris Pratt era on, when it was all digital, I'm not afraid anymore. And some of that, like, I grew up, obviously, but I still jump when I watch the first Jurassic Park. Those are real puppets. They look real. They have an analog nature to them that I think actually shines and is manifested best by the film, like the actual film. It just feels authentic. You can't replace that feeling, right? So you can replace the content and you can see it digitally, and maybe it's cheaper. My thought went to, well, we're cutting out jobs. Well, there's still jobs of, like, the CG artists. So I'm not taking that away. But it's almost like the difference between streaming a song and putting on a vinyl. There's a warmth to it. There's a presence to it. There's a time aspect to the creation of the art. And that's really what these effects are. They're art. And if you just click, and it's done, sure, it was done fast, but was it done with the care and the detail and the aesthetic and the warmth that I think a lot of the practical effects really provide?
All right, so it's interesting that I agree 100% with what you said, and it's interesting that you use music as an example, because for me, it's books. A lot of the people in my family like to read as much as I do, but they all have Kindles and e-readers and Amazon Fires and all this stuff, which is fine. Like, I get, there's a waterproof aspect. You got all these books in one, but also when the battery dies, you now don't have a book to read. But when I have a hard copy of a book, there's something about turning the pages, when you're trying to finish the book, seeing how much you have left, the smell, the weight of the book, all that stuff to me makes a difference. So I think that's gotta mean something more to the actors too. Like, the movie that I think of is actually Alien, the first Alien movie. When the xenomorph is right in Sigourney Weaver's face, breathing and the saliva dripping, and she's like, cowering away from it. Now if they made that same movie shot for shot now, where she'd be cowering away from a tennis ball, or somebody in a skin tight green suit just going ah. So it's like,
yeah, and I think that the challenge with the CG realm is that we know it's fake. Back in the day, which was a Wednesday, back in the day, you couldn't tell. And so it's like, well, how did they create that? I know it's not real, but how did they do that, right? There was all of this curiosity that came from the art of filmmaking, and that's just gone when you sort of go, it's a computer. Now, to play devil's advocate, there are realms and stories that we could not tell without CG. I think of Interstellar. Like, that's a phenomenal movie that, no, practical effects are not going to really be able to grasp what was in Nolan's mind.
I thought Avatar the same way.
Avatar is another one. All of the Marvel movies that are space-wise, you just can't do it. And so it has
Lord of the
place.
Rings. Lord of the Rings would have been hard with only practical effects.
But even that, Lord of the Rings is the exception to the rule because they used so many miniatures.
Yeah.
And yeah, there was CG, but I think Lord of the Rings is probably the perfect example of being able to use CG when you need it, but practical all the way as much as you can.
Yeah, that's fair.
I forget what Nolan movie was it. Oppenheimer? Something he did recently. It was like touted that he only used practical effects.
Oh, wow.
I think there are filmmakers and storytellers who also care about this and are moving more towards that because they also believe that it lends itself towards that storytelling medium. But I think both have a place. You just need to figure out what's gonna enhance this story. Is it the quick click, or do I really want to spend some time with developing the feel of this movie, and do practical effects enhance that?
And just to be clear, I don't have the skill to do either.
Right.
So, I'm not speaking as somebody who does one and not the other and knows what they're doing or anything. But I think that I'm not saying that computer graphics and computer generated imagery and animation don't have a huge amount of intelligence and skill set and artistry behind it. But as somebody that grew up on things like, as a kid who grew up with things like the Ninja Turtles movie and Star Wars and the Neverending Story and, movies that really, the Dark Crystal, that really used practical effects, puppetry, miniature sets to enhance the storytelling, it felt more real because it was real. Like, it was tangible. You could hold it, you can see it, you can feel it. And I feel like it was probably that way for the actors as well. And, if we're talking about comic book movies, I have to think that, especially when you have, um, these characters that are so inhuman that they're CGI, I think about characters like the Hulk or Thanos or any of the Black Order, any of those kinds of characters. Like, yes, there are probably, those actors in the body suits with the dots all over them, but some of the menace or some of the, characterization is taken away when you see behind the scenes. And I again, it's an after Endgame thing. I feel like the CGI went way downhill when it comes to these, especially comic book movies, that because they just, again, like you said, I know that it was fake. I know that none of that is real, but it felt real enough until they started making it so ridiculous that it was like everything has to be CG. And now it looks like almost like a badly done cartoon. Like, make it a cartoon or give it some realism, because right now it looks like you don't know which to do and you did a bad combination.
Yeah. And I think too, like, the 30,000-foot view of this entire conversation is that because of the limitations of the 80s and 90s practical effect world, and because of our age, there's sort of this weird intersection of childlike innocence and limitations in practical effects, to where we felt like that was the scariest, that was the best, that was the most fun, all of that. And now that we're older and sort of understand how the world works a little bit, there is a little bit of just that, well, it's not the same. And I don't know if that's fair, but I do have to recognize that it exists.
I actually saw somebody talk about this, and it like this may not make as much sense for you, not being a fan of it, but Doctor Who, if anybody watches Doctor Who, you watch Doctor Who now, everything is CG. You watch
Yeah.
Doctor Who from, I don't know, like 2007 and earlier, everything was costume and practical effects for the most part. That was part of the charm. Like, it was meant to be kind of cheesy, a little silly. Like, that was part of what
Yeah.
was charming about it. And I'm not saying it's not good now. It is, but it's different. It's different when everything is a green screen. Everything is a bodysuit. Everything is dots all over the face and tennis balls to look at so you know what you're talking to. It's just not the same. So I think that if I had to choose, I think I would go practical effects all day. Some of that might be nostalgia, but I'm okay with that because I think that that's where the joy in watching a movie comes from is that part of it.
What do you think, audience?
What indeed do you think?
Let us know. You know how.
You know how to do it.
Right here.
All these things right here. Not this guy, but all the things in front of him.
Which I was thinking as I was editing the last few episodes. I think that guy needs to get retired. I think he's done.
No.
Well,
What are you gonna just blur it out? You know, I have this like championship belt here that I could wrap around the mic instead. Change it up.
I'll practical effect him out.
How dare you? He is a practical effect.
It's just a crop button. Anyway, I got a plot synopsis for 1990s Teenage something Mutant Ninja robots. Cue foreboding music.
Ninja puppets.
Here we go. Once upon a time, in the 1990s, New York City was apparently so crime-ridden that the cops just couldn't stop a plague of teenage pickpockets. But 4 6-foot Mutant Ninja Turtles with nunchucks could. Raised in a sewer by a giant rat who somehow knows jujitsu, don't ask, Leonardo, Michelangelo, Donatello, and Raphael fight crime while throwing catchphrases and inhaling pizza. Enter April O'Neil, a news reporter whose journalistic ethics evaporate as soon as a turtle flirts with her. Casey Jones, a sports equipment-themed vigilante who solves problems by committing assault with a hockey stick and then goes on to start the band Creed. The Foot Clan, teenage runaways who are trained thieves and chain smoke in Shredder's Neon Arcade Dojo. Meanwhile, Shredder, a discount ninja Darth Vader, tries to take over New York City by, making kids steal TVs. The Turtles team up with April and Casey to stop him. Splinter gets kidnapped again, and the climax features some of the slowest martial arts choreography that would make Zack Snyder jealous. Can friendship, family, and pizza save the day? Steal a boombox and find out in the 1990s Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles. Dun dun dun!
You're a mean, bitter old person.
I'm going to get my walker out for
As
this
we
one.
said, we are doing 1990s Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles, and it stars Judith Hoag, Elias Codius, James Saito, Sam Rockwell, Brian Tochi, John Payas, Robbie Risto, Corey Feldman, and Kevin Clash, and was directed by Steve Barron, who, before and after this, mostly is known for having done a bunch of music videos, especially in the 80s. So
Cool. You know, this does feel like a giant music
yeah,
video.
it could. Especially if you add in that ninja rap at the end credits, make a music video out of that. It's not as good as the sequel with that "Go Ninja, Go Ninja, Go, Go Ninja, Go Ninja, Go."
Don't, whatever you do, North, don't make me watch the sequel.
We're gonna have to get to it eventually. If we keep doing this show, we're gonna get through all the Ninja Turtle movies. There's 3 of these '90s ones. Then there's 2 that came in the 2000s.
3?
There are 2 animated ones.
My God.
Yeah, so there's a lot of Ninja Turtle stuff.
There's a lot of turtles, but there's not a lot of good stuff.
Listen, if you want to ever dive into the Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtle comics, like, you know, the IDW run is good, the original is good, but there's a newer run called The Last Ronin, where it's like a future where a lot of the Ninja Turtles have been killed off. There's only one left. There's this underground resistance. It's very, very good. It's a very good story. So I fully recommend it.
Unlike this film, I've got very few good things.
What did he say?
All right, well, we'll get into it. Let's go ahead.
I'll kick it off.
Yeah, go ahead. You hater.
I am a sucker for the 80s and early 90s, and the vibe just got me.
Oh, yeah.
It's fun. It's a sign of the times. The music is light. It's fun. It's very Goonies. It doesn't take itself seriously. It's here, and it doesn't apologize for being what it is. I will give it that.
And what makes it better is that it's not only is it, 1980s, early 90s, but it's 80s and 90s New York City, and that just kicks it up another level of that feel.
Opening scene.
Oh yeah, with
right.
just
The
all
opening
the
scene, I
clip
saw the
shots of-
towers, and I was just like, "Oh, here we are. This is great." That's where it stopped, but this is great. This is a kids movie.
Yes, and I'll get into why when we do other.
And I just have to keep reminding myself that this is a kids movie.
It is absolutely a kids movie.
Sam Rockwell's in here.
He is.
You pointed it out, but look at that, Justin Hammer,
little baby Sam Rockwell. He's in almost a blink if you miss it role. He's one of the kids who threatens April early in the movie, and then you see him kind of floating around until the end. He's kind of the only kid with lines when the Foot Clan is being disbanded, and they're like, we're a family, we want to be better. He's kind of delivering that little monologue there. So yeah, it was a nice little introduction to Sam Rockwell.
The only other thing I got is that there is a strong theme throughout the plot, and it's well written. It's not a good film, but it's a well written film because it's consistent, it's contained, it knows what it's about, it picks its moments, it's very well written.
It's interesting to say that a movie is well written.
And you don't like it?
Not that you don't like it, because I think that there are plenty of movies that I don't like that I could recognize as like well acted, well written, well whatever. But it's interesting that you say a movie is well written when it's a bad movie. You know what I mean?
Well, yeah, so let's make the distinction with that. It's a well-written movie because at every point of the plot, every time it turns, every new character, every development, every new thing that happens, it's still coming back to its theme, which is family.
So it's well-written thematically.
Yes, it's razor focused on what it's about.
So it's coherent within the world in which it was written.
No, I didn't say that.
But that's what it would be if it continues to go.
No, it's coherent with its. What I mean is it's coherent with its messaging.
Okay, consistent with its messaging.
Yes.
Okay, gotcha.
That's all I got.
All right. Well,
I even came out of my shell a little bit with those good things.
Stop it right now. Stop it, or
I won't.
I will.
I've got a list.
I will leave right now.
Am I not turtly enough for the Turtle Club?
Oh, gee. Wow. Now there's a pull right there.
Am I not turtly enough for the Turtle Club?
That's a pull.
Your turn.
All right. Now, as somebody who grew up with the cartoon as well as the movies, there are a couple of things that I liked. I have always loved the character of Casey Jones. I think Casey Jones is a great character in comic books. So I like that they included him in the first movie. They could have very easily waited and put him in a sequel. But I like that they included him right away. And I also love in the beginning they had April wearing yellow, because in the cartoon she wears this weird like yellow jumpsuit thing all the time for, reasons. So I like that she just had this yellow coat on. It was just a little nod to that. Like we said, the practical effects. I like a movie with practical effects. It's part of the charm and the nostalgia.
Were you shell-shocked?
Shut your mouth. Bleecker Street makes a couple of appearances, which is a real street in New York. And for people who are in the know, Bleecker Street is also where Dr. Strange lives.
Did they do that intentionally?
Oh, I wouldn't think so, because usually any Ninja Turtle crossovers would be with DC more so than Marvel.
Right.
It just is one of those like, haha, we know. Oh, look. But I don't think it was on purpose.
Gotcha.
I like that the Ninja Turtles, they're called the Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles, and I like that they act like teenagers. Like they are young in the way they act, the way they think, the way they speak. They're not. One of the things I think that's lost in the two remakes that they did is that they seem much older, whereas they're supposed to be 15.
Okay.
They sound 15 in this movie. They sound like 80s and 90s kids as far as like what they need to do to get their plan going, what they're into. Whoa, April's totally hot. We got to save Splinter. We got to do all these. We act impulsively, like all this stuff. really gave me the vibe of like, these are four teenagers that just look like freaks, you know?
Yeah, it wasn't turtly awful.
I'm not going to give you any more information if you keep doing this. It was based more off the cartoon than the comic book. The comic book surprisingly takes itself very seriously. It's very gritty. It's very dark. The cartoon lightened it up a lot, which started in 1988 or 89. And that's when Michelangelo got the kind of surfer dude vibe, and Donatello became the tech genius. So they based it much more heavily off the cartoon, which I think was the right move because it, like we said, it's definitely more of a kids movie.
Yeah.
Again, for me, the nostalgia factor plays into it heavily, and I enjoyed that part of it, and I like that it kind of leaned into being campy. You know what I mean?
Yeah, we've talked about that with other films on this podcast where like it knows who it is and therefore it, like I said, it doesn't apologize for being what it is. But it's so interesting because you've got the connection to it from your childhood and I don't, how we're both looking at the same thing, recognizing that it's doing what it's doing, and we both land like, yeah, I don't get it, and you are celebrating it.
Right. Like yeah, and that's again, and we've talked about this before too. That's where the nostalgia plays heavily, and I don't think it has to color whether something is good or bad to recognize that it's important to you.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
You didn't catch that one?
Oh no, I missed that one. What did you say? No,
Celebrate.
you know what? I don't want to know. Oh, celebrate. I thought you were just
I don't have a lisp.
an idiot. I don't know. I thought you
I
just
am
didn't know
an
how to
idiot.
say words. But that's what I have for the good. That's all I got for good. But I do have a couple of others, just mostly just kind of little factoids.
Go ahead. This was very black and white for me. I don't have any others.
Okay. Well, I mentioned two of them already. That it doesn't take itself seriously and it's heavily based on the cartoon. But the voice of Splinter was Kevin Clash, who I mentioned in the credits before. And if you don't know, Kevin Clash is also the original puppeteer and voice for Elmo in Sesame Street. But, you know, if you listen to the voice of Elmo and you listen to the voice of Splinter, you'd never be able to know that that was the same person doing both of those voices, you know?
What does the voice of Elmo sound like?
I'm not doing it. Absolutely not. You can play a little Elmo clip right here, and the audience can know. You know what he sounds like.
No,
They know what he sounds like.
I want to hear you do it.
Absolutely not. I do it for my son once in a
By
while,
the end
but
of the episode, I will get it.
yeah, if you pull a clip and insert it in here with your CGI
Come
stuff.
on. The people want to hear it. That's why they listen to the show.
All right, two things I have. Like we said before with the practical effects, Jim Henson's Creature Shop were behind the turtle costumes and puppetry.
Yep.
And this was also the last project that Henson was involved in before his death, which is, it's just very cool that, he's a part of this legacy. And, I love when I see, Jim Henson's Creature Shop being involved because the creativity that they have with that company is just incredible.
Yeah.
When it comes to this type of work. Now, the other thing is not really about the movie. It's more about the Ninja Turtles. Now, again, with not having any history, do you know about the Ninja Turtles and the importance of their weapons based on their personality?
No.
Okay. Well, I'm going to share with you.
That is a sentence I never thought would be directed in my direction.
Yes, well, I'm going to share with you what they are and why they're important. So, first, Leonardo.
Is this like the Ninja Turtles Enneagram? Is this the turtle horoscope?
Kind of. It's kind of, but it's really what it is about balance. It's about balance.
Okay.
It's about the yin and the yin and the yang. This.
Do you also say yin yang because you're a product of the 90's?
I said yin yang.
I know, but you started by saying ying, and I, for the longest time, thought it was ying.
I definitely did say yin yang growing up until I learned it, and now I have to actively remember to correct it.
You have to do the work. Anyway, talk to me about balance.
All right, so Leonardo is the leader. He uses a pair of katanas, and they take a measure of control and skill to use, and they are usually a leading weapon. They're sharp at the end, so that is why Leonardo uses them. Donatello heavily relies on tech, so his weapon is a wooden bow staff, so that he can learn to rely on the simple things and not always on technology in order to better his enemies.
Okay.
Michelangelo is often out of control, but nunchucks take a very, very specific skill set to use. You need self-control to use them correctly and to be proficient in them. So that is something that is kind of opposite of his personality. And then finally, Raphael, who is the hot-headed and most knee-jerk reactionary character, is given sais, which are those pitchfork looking things. Now, sais are defense weapons. They can be used in offense, but they are designed to be defensive weapons. So somebody who would be prone to attack first, the weapons he uses are defensive weapons. So I just thought that was an interesting little look into, that's an interesting detail that I don't know that I definitely didn't look deeply into until recently, but I think it's cool.
To all of that, I say, shell yeah.
No.
We got an ad.
Thank God. Take a break.
We'll be right back after a word from our sponsor.
Hopefully with no more puns.
I could do this all day. This episode is sponsored by Michelangelo's Pizza, the only pizza guaranteed to be delivered by skateboard. It's all that and a bag of chips. Chips sold separately. Whether you want Cowabunga cheese, gnarly pepperoni, or sewer salami, Mikey's got you covered. Call now and get a free bandana with your 10th pie. Michelangelo's Pizza. Relish it now, regret it later. Delivery available at select manhole covers and your mom's basement.
All right. That was quick and to the point.
They're a quick sponsor.
All right. Oh, I need to rate that one, right?
Any good?
It was okay. I feel like it's not your best work, and I feel that the reason is that you did not have any kind of joy in watching this.
Yeah. No, that's accurate.
I feel that that's reflective. So I'm gonna give it a Joaquin Phoenix Joker.
What?
It's
not even on that's not even on our list.
That's not on our list?
No.
Oh yeah. Well, that's what it's getting.
All right.
That's how I felt about it.
You know what?
I
receive your feedback. I am crushed, and I'm never talking to you again.
It was a nothing ad.
It was a nothing ad because it's a nothing movie. It sucks.
You're a nothing movie.
Here we go. I got bad stuff for days.
I got some bad stuff too.
Yeah, but you've got the sewer grade of nostalgia. You're like, oh, I was 6 in my PJs. I love this movie.
I was close. I was 5.
5? All right, whatever. Here we go.
Right, go
they're not really good at this whole hidden thing. Like, if they're supposed to be, not seen, they're very obvious. Like, there's a 6-foot turtle hanging out.
Yeah.
Everybody can see.
I think the big evidence of that is when Raphael goes out wearing just the trench coat and the hat, walking around
Yeah.
Okay, but also let's talk about the stupidity of the people looking at him. Like Casey Jones just thinks that he's oh, you're some weird deformed guy. Look, take a second and look. He's clearly a giant turtle.
This goes to another thing of mine. It's like April gets over the whole turtle thing really fast.
Yeah.
It's like no human would be this chill about meeting a human-sized talking reptile. She freaks out for 30 seconds, and now she's flirting.
Okay, but wouldn't that be nice to put that kind of mentality into the X-Men universe? Because this goes to what we're talking wouldn't you think it was cool if your brother, sister, child, parent had a superpower? Wouldn't you want to be friends with a giant turtle that knows karate and likes pizza? I would.
No.
All right, well.
There are certain humans that have those attributes, and I'm not interested.
No, that's fair. Right, but being a turtle, I think, gives you a level above the crappy humans.
Shell no.
You already did that one. That doesn't count.
I said shell yeah before, and now it's shell no. It's different. Shredder's grand plan, he's running around, and it amounts to like juveniles recruiting in a secret ring to steal radios.
Yeah.
The odds seem drastically low for a dude who's dressed as knives.
I mean, the stakes.
Yeah, but ugh. He wasn't menacing at all.
No.
I wasn't
No, no, no.
I wasn't worried whatsoever for those kids.
No, I did not.
This I know you'll agree with me, but the racism ages very poorly.
Oh boy. And it is
Oh boy.
it is so like casual racism against Japanese culture as a whole with the voices that they use, and
Yep.
both Shredder and Tatsu, his like right hand man, are dubbed.
Are they?
So it's even worse because it's not even them speaking like that, it's somebody else putting that accent on, speaking
Ugh.
for them. And then, Kevin Clash is a very large black man who's doing a very bad Asian accent for Splinter. So it's it is.
Well, what does he sound like normally? Like when he's doing the Elmo voice?
I don't know. I guess you'll have to just Google that, and you can see Google Splinter, Google Elmo, and you can hear the difference. He almost got me that time.
The same thing goes with the misogyny. There's a lot of it in here.
Especially with
It's
Casey
just
Jones,
like-
yeah.
Yeah, it's just very. Which again, he should go start his band Creed, but it's very obvious.
It is. And-
which is a great thing, right? Like we've come a long way as a society, and now because we look back and we see it, it's like, oh, that's bad. It's good. It's sort of good that we're sensitive to that.
It is, and again, it's a sign of the times, and that's not to say that it was okay then, but it definitely was much more
Yeah.
widely accepted when this was made, and which is why like those things make such heavy appearances. But it wasn't okay then, the same way it's not okay now. But it was definitely a sign of, you could tell when this was made.
It's time to stop! It's time to stop, okay?
I know that you just mentioned that there are accents for a reason, and it's pulling from a very specific comic line, but they got annoying to me after a while because they weren't consistent. Like, if you're asking me to believe that 4 turtles in the same area got radioactively brought to life, well, then they should somewhat be similar. But it's like you've got the thick Brooklyn accent, you've got the surfer from California, it's thick and cartoony, and it borders on parody in and of itself, but they're brothers? It didn't connect for me.
Yeah, they all grew up in New York, and yet, like you said, Leonardo and Donatello don't have any distinguishable accent, but Raph is clearly from Brooklyn or the Bronx, and Mikey is clearly from California. Why? And I mean, even a throwaway line of like they were influenced by the TV they watch or something like that would have been fine,
Yeah.
but there's just no explanation for why they sound so regionistically different.
I'll give this one a pass, and maybe I should put this in other, but it's in bad, and it's actually the suits, particularly the faces. It's a limitation of the times, I get it, right? But there are times where the animatronic barely lines up and is not synced with the dialogue.
Yeah.
And the expressions are just limited and static the whole film. Again, it's 1989 when they're filming this. It is what it is. But if you're asking me, it's like, well, don't do this movie until you can actually do this movie.
Yeah, but I think that, and I know you said you would, but I think it deserves a pass only because, technologically, for the time, for the budget, for what the characters are, it's a really great piece of puppetry, and it was using a lot of robotics and that kind of thing. So
Right. What I'm saying by don't do it until you can do it right, I don't mean like, oh, until they came up with CGI. What I mean is like it's a limited medium that lends itself better to cartoon, to animation. So stick with that. You shouldn't have made a live action version because of the limitations that you have.
I have that in my bad as well.
Yeah.
That the Turtles overall through the years work better as animated movies, animated TV series. They're great. The movies have been consistently, eh.
Yep. I mentioned this in the plot synopsis, but the fight choreography is very clunky at times. You can practically see the actors looking for their cues. Like they're looking down for their mark and waiting, and it's like either that's an editing problem or you didn't get the best martial artists. And the last thing I have. No, it's not the last thing.
Okay.
What is this lair? What is this Foot Clan lair? This giant neon lit up arcade skate park base operations that's somehow invisible to law enforcement?
What is the first thing? I want to know if we were on the same wavelength when we saw it. What was the first thing you thought of outside of this, and not even a joke? What's the first thing that you pictured when you saw the like all the kids playing and doing all the stuff in there?
Either it's the same vein, but it was either Chuck E. Cheese or United Skates.
Okay. See, I didn't think of a real
What about you?
place. The first thing I thought of was Pleasure Island from Pinocchio.
Okay.
Because you had, these 11-year-olds, smoking cigars,
Smoking
playing poker,
cigars?
Doing all
How
this
did they
stuff.
do that, by the way?
I mean, I imagine
I hope it was
it
fake.
was the 90s.
What's that guy's name? Kevin?
Yeah, Kevin something.
Out when it was the 90s.
We'll shout him out here. He's hilarious.
In my super fundamentalist church when it was the 90s. I love his stuff that happened in the 90s because I relate so deeply to it.
Unfortunately, I've got a version of each one. You can tell where the film ran out of budget based on the lighting of the scenes. There's a lot that all of a sudden just goes dark. And you could say, oh, it's a stylistic choice because of the ninjas, but no, you guys ran out of money. So there's no lights. No problem. Just film it in the dark.
No. They'll say it was an artistic choice.
Yeah.
Who's gonna know?
Last thing I have. We have established, Christopher, that This is a child's movie.
Yes, it is. Definitely aimed at kids.
They put Shredder in a shredder. What is happening?
No. He got thrown in the back of a garbage truck.
And then compressed?
Yes, okay, so that's one of the things I have here written down is casual murder.
Casual.
Because
We're cool with it,
because
but...
Casey Jones is the one who does it, and he does the whole, meant to be for comedic effect, and whoops. Oh, whoopsie. How did that lever get there? So, yeah. Pretty nonchalant about just killing that guy.
Overall, I was bored out of my mind.
When really, what did he do wrong? I mean, what did he do wrong? I understand that he, did a bunch of stealing, but did what he do constitute being murdered? I don't feel like that.
If you want to list his atrocities, he stole a rat. Nobody was there by force. He didn't kidnap anybody.
Okay, well, he did kill Master Yoshi, Splinter's original owner. He did kill him. So
yeah, but he had a good lawyer, so he got off on a technicality.
Yeah, he had a rat for a lawyer.
What do you got?
A lot of the things you said. I have some specific things. One thing that really bothers me, as somebody that grew up in New York, they ordered pizza in New York City from Domino's. You're in New York City and you got Domino's delivery?
The only reason for that, I guarantee, was...
For shame.
Was worldwide appeal.
Yes, I get a product placement, sponsorship. I get all that, but come on. That was offensive.
They should have ordered from Michelangelo's Pizza.
The flashback thing was weird. Weird because of the way it was filmed. I get when this was made, and so the quality of it, looks like it was made when it was.
That too.
But that flashback is meant to look older than when this is taking place.
It was just shot on a potato.
It was such a weird choice. It was so difficult to watch because it was like a bad home movie. It was, yeah, that was a weird choice. Didn't like it.
Agreed.
Why is nobody questioning the fact that the Ninja Turtles and the Foot Clan exist in New York City? Like, April starts off this news thing. It's like, oh yeah, this is old Japanese legend of the Foot Clan. They're the ones doing all this stuff, and they're trying to, not ignore her story. Like, everybody's just okay with the fact that there are ninjas and giant turtles who also know ninja, just existing. Like, all the kids
Yeah.
are okay with that.
It's fine.
That's such a weird recruitment thing. Like, come steal TVs, smoke cigars, play video games, and be a ninja.
Because it was the 90s.
Yeah, it was the 90s. All right. Well, because you said about the fight choreography is a little weak, but also I hate. This is also something that I don't like in a lot of movies that do this. Is Michelangelo versus the versus the nunchuck wielding foot member
Yeah.
when they have like the who's better at nunchucks? It's like, so everybody's just stopping the fight so that you guys
Yep.
can have like a dance battle, and then what? What happens when we pick a winner?
Off.
Like, what?
It's a dance off.
That's essentially what it was. It was a dance off.
Name that movie.
I'm embarrassed.
You should be.
No, I'm
Go with
thinking.
your gut.
I'm thinking.
Go with your gut.
I'm thinking Zoolander when it's a
Yeah,
walk
and you'd
off, but
be
it's
right.
not. But it's not a dance off. That's a walk off.
Oh, I ruined it. Dang it.
That's why I was like, it's a dance off. That sounds familiar, but incorrect. Yeah,
I am totally embarrassed.
used it already.
I'll just.
That's a lot of missing kids
It is.
to go unnoticed. That is a lot of missing children.
Yep.
When April is attacked in the subway by the Foot Clan, they were just waiting. They were just like standing there waiting.
Hanging out.
Like eight or nine guys just in ninja costumes, just standing there waiting.
8 or 9 guys in knockoff Spider-Man attire making horribly racist accents. Yeah. Now just hanging out.
When did Splinter get a psychic connection? Or the Turtles, for that matter? That was
OMG ninjas.
That was a random addition. And again, if this kind of thing, what I'm about to say, if it had happened consistently throughout the whole movie, would have been still not great, but it would have been fine. What is with this weird one like 7-minute interlude of April's journaling about all the people staying at the farm with her? Like, all of a sudden she's keeping this journal. It's this weird monologue about each character.
Yeah.
If
So
the
who
whole
are you, Anna Green Gables?
Exactly. If the whole thing had been her doing this, that would have been one thing. But this was what a weirdly interspersed thing. April and Casey, man, did I roll my eyes at this enemies become lovers thing of like
it was so forced.
I'm gonna insult you. Like, well, you're a stuck. It was, you know what it was? It was like it was the Temu version of Han and Leia.
Yeah.
Like, you're pretty, but you're stuck up. Well, you're pig-headed, but also you saved my life. So, and it's like, oh my God. Just, I could, if my eyes went any further into the back of my head, I would not have them anymore. That was bad.
Good to know.
Also, the kids, all the stuff with the kids felt very after school specially.
Yeah.
Like, oh, dad doesn't get me. Mom's not here anymore. Life's hard, so I want to play video games and smoke and steal stuff.
It was that mixed with the Karate Kid.
It had that cue music. Yeah, that was not good.
Again, it's a music video.
Yeah, definitely music video worthy. The last thing I have, because you covered a lot of the other stuff that I've written around. The last thing I had is, again, something because I grew up with the Ninja Turtles, is that Leonardo is way out of character. Now, I know that I said one of the things I liked was that they're all teenagers, but Donnie being smart, Raph being hot-headed, Mikey being a party dude, those are consistent with the portrayals. Leonardo was just as silly as the rest of them, but Leonardo has always been the leader. And he was always much more serious about training, much more serious about, meditation and teamwork and leading. But he was just kind of as silly as the rest of them, and you didn't see him eventually rise to that occasion. So that just bothered me, just as like you made everybody else pretty consistent to how they're supposed to be. Why didn't you do that with him? Because this team needed, especially after the loss of Splinter, they needed a leader, and he should have been the one to immediately step up. And you could argue, I know he sat vigil when Raph was injured, and he was the one who had this psychic connection with Splinter, but it's not the same. It should have been consistent from the beginning that he was the clear cut leader of this team. He was the Captain America.
I mean, nobody made us watch this movie, so these wounds are self-inflicted.
I hate you.
I have spiritual content.
I don't even want to hear it. I don't even want to hear it.
You don't want to hear from the Lord?
Only if the Lord is going to say no, because the Lord is going to ask me to forgive you for the egregious offenses that you have placed against me with your terrible, terrible turtle-based puns. And I don't know
Tell
that
you what.
I don't know that I'm there. I don't know that I'm there yet.
I'll make you a deal. You want me to stop?
No.
Do the Elmo
absolutely
voice.
not. No, I'll deal with them. I did an Oscar voice a few episodes ago. That's the last time.
Scram. I wish I could make that your text when you text me. Just scram, scram, scram. Anyway, I got spiritual content.
Right.
This movie's all about family.
Yeah.
Like I said, it's really well written. It's concise within itself and its messaging. And it's all about family. And obviously, as faith people, as followers of Jesus, we have a built-in family called the church. So it's a little bit low-hanging fruit. You kind of can't get away from it. But what was interesting, I tried to take it to the next level, is this verse in Ephesians 1, verse 5. It says, "For he chose us in him before the creation of the world to be holy and blameless in his sight. In love, he predestined us for adoption to sonship through Jesus Christ in accordance with his pleasure and his will." And so, yes, there's a family aspect to following Jesus. We have each other. We don't have to be alone. A lot of that is found and made family. It's not just necessarily blood. But we're chosen together to live out God's mission as one body. And it was very similar to the Turtles, obviously, who find their belonging in the shadows and the sewers. We find our belonging in Christ, but it's that one section that says he chose us, he predestined us. Like, there's aspects of your family that you wish you didn't that maybe you wish you chose a little bit differently, but they're given to you, and so you just have to sort of deal with that. Mm-hmm. This verse sort of says God chose us and predestined us to be a part of this family. So for all the members that you don't get along with, for all the members that you think, I didn't think you'd be in the family, or the ones that you totally disagree with, you got to remember the architect of the family, and that's God. Like, this is his choice. This was his design. Yeah. And what is his design? What was it for? It says in accordance with his pleasure and his will. And so us functioning as a family brings God joy. It brings God fulfillment, but it also brings about the way he works in the world. And so that was sort of just what popped into mind for me, that yeah, there's family aspects in this film, and it's obviously all about family, from the Foot Clan to the Turtles to welcoming new people in and then rediscovering what family actually is. And when we look at that through the spiritual realm, when we look at that through the spiritual lens, we sort of see that it's the same thing, but God does it to accomplish his will and to bring himself joy.
That's really good. And it's funny that you say that. That's growing up. That's something my dad used to say when, when there were other believers that would, in the church, especially, that I could tell like were rubbing him the wrong way, or that were, hurting me in some way. And, I would say, like, why do you like him? Why do you still work with him? Why do you let her do this and that? And one of the things that he would say to me sometimes is that, like, I have to spend eternity with them.
Hmm.
So why aren't I going to try the best I can to make it work and get along? Because, we have a long time to spend together. Now, I mean, obviously it's a little, facetious to say, because, that'll be a different kind of experience, but, it's a good thought to have where it's
Sure.
like, we're all part of this family. That doesn't mean we all have to love each other. Doesn't mean I'm going to send Christmas and birthday cards to everybody, but it does mean that everybody deserves your love and respect,
I love that.
But speaking of joy, for me, I landed on, if you're, again, familiar with the Ninja Turtles, you know that Michelangelo is kind of the embodiment of joy. And this is throughout this, these hard experiences that the Turtles are dealing with of, like, they can't show themselves for who they are because of what they are. They are trying, their father figure is kidnapped. They're trying to save these kids and fight these enemies. Life is hard for them, but for us too. Life is hard right now. There's a lot of things going on in our world, in our country, in our personal lives that are inflicting a lot of hurt, frustration, anger on and in people. And I recognize that. And it's in those times, especially like Michelangelo, where we sometimes need to choose joy. There's always going to be hardships. Life is never going to be a complete cakewalk. And it's our job, especially as believers, to not only choose joy, but to embody joy as an example for other people. Because for us, there's joy within us with the hope that Jesus brings. And if we believe that's true, that's the joy we need to exude to other people. And the difference, that doesn't mean that you're happy. Happiness and joy are not the same thing. Happiness will fade, but joy in Jesus will last forever. And especially if you look at Psalm 16:11, there's a portion of that says, in your presence, there's a fullness of joy. There's joy when you find yourself in the presence of God. There is joy when you can trust in the hope that you have in Jesus, even when things really suck, even when things aren't going your way, even when you're met with having to do something or experience something that feels like it robs you of that joy. It might rob you of happiness, but when your joy is found in the Lord, I feel like that's something you have to choose to embrace. It's not something that's necessarily going to happen naturally unless you choose it. So I think being like Michelangelo, choosing joy even in the face of adversity, I think can only serve to help you.
I like it.
Thanks. I liked it too.
We got to rate this.
We do. Well, I'm going to go.
You want to take a wild guess what I rated it?
Well, considering that at some point during the weekend when we were watching this movie, you texted me and said, do we have a rating that's lower than a Clooney? And we do not, but I'm guessing that's where you're landing. So why don't you start with us?
Right at the bottom. The only way to go is up, and this did not. So this is horrendous. This is a Clooney. It doesn't age well. I don't get it. This is a film for its fans only.
Yeah.
There is no ability to walk into this and be like, oh yeah, I think I'd really like to start understanding this world. This ain't the film to do it.
Mm-hmm.
It's dated. It's icky. And there are times where I wish I would take all those turtles and make a turtle soup. So it gets a Clooney from me.
I definitely understand. I think it's a fair rating. And to serve your point, I think that that's true. As a fan of Ninja Turtles, if I was going to introduce somebody to Ninja Turtles who had no experience, this would not be the first thing I show them.
Nope.
So I absolutely understand that. For me, the nostalgia laid heavily on me for this. So it is a West for me. And West is so bad it's good. I know that it's a bad movie. It's got issues. It's got casual misogyny. It's got casual racism. It's poorly done. It is not the best example of the Ninja Turtles. But having grown up with it, it's hard not to connect to the memories I have of it, to the excitement of seeing this as a kid. So that's why it's a Western. Like, I could watch it again and enjoy it for the terrible thing it is, but I would not use it to introduce somebody cold to the Ninja Turtles. So
I can watch it for the terrible thing it is, but not for the terrible things it's done.
well, it hasn't done anything terrible to me personally, just to the world as a whole, and film and comic books and the Ninja Turtles, really.
But boys and girls, what do you think about this movie? Drop us a comment on Instagram, Facebook, and YouTube. And you can follow us on Spotify, Apple Podcasts, right here on YouTube. Make sure you like and subscribe so you stay up to date on all the Sanctum news every time we post a video.
Yes, do all those things. And Joseph, if you're ready, I'm ready to disband this Foot Clan and shut this down.
Tell the kids what they need to know.
Well, kids, remember, forgiveness is divine, but never pay full price for late pizza. Turtle power.
Now that we're not recording, would you do the Elmo voice for me?
Absolutely not. I can't.
Terrible.
I've been playing with Landon all morning. My voice is not up to par, and I can't quite get high enough.
I don't know if I could either.
I'm one octave too low.
Do that. Do the octave lower.
No, what I'm saying is that's as high as I can get.
No, that's what I want to hear. I want to hear how distorted it sounds.
Yeah, I figured it was there.